In conclusion of this series with Bernie Currie concerning our military and our veterans, I want to speak with Bernie about being a vet and how would a veteran know about any of the services available to them? What are the things they need to do in order to market themselves and be prepared to enter a different world outside of the military? So I'm really pleased to have this third part of this series with Bernie Currie to talk about being a vet and how to market themselves. For our podcast disclaimer, please visit the episode description. I think I'd like to move to talk about USERRA a little bit. And also, if I'm a vet coming out, where do I go? What do I do? How do I leverage the network of my neighbors and my friends? So, really, kind of what are a good reminder of those USERRA rights, and everybody's poster should be up, and also the resources from the other side of the table. What's there for the veterans?
So the Department of Defense back in right around 1972, I think it was, they established the employer support of the Guard and Reserve. And really, the reason that was established, many have come back from the Vietnam War, was really to promote cooperation and understanding between the reserve component uh, service members and their civilian employers. And so today there's well over 2,300 volunteers from over 54 committees in states and territories all across the globe. And so USERRA is the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act of 1994. It's a federal law and it protects job rights of those that are in the National Guard and the reserves, and it affects employment and reemployment and retention. Its purpose really is to inform and educate, and it does offer ombudsman service. So, case in point, if those who are working in our workplace are in the Guard and the Reserve, and they typically have 1 week in the month, they're supposed to go out for drill at a local unit, or they go into 2 weeks worth of training throughout the year just to be able to keep fresh with their skill set. And then they may be deployed up to a period of 5 years.
Hmm.
There are protections for them when they go do that. So, for example, an employer can't say, well, they go every month. That's just not going to work for me. I need to hire somebody else. Well, unfortunately, you're not allowed to do that under
Hmm.
USERRA. The act itself protects those that serve. Well, what am I going to do if they're going to be gone for a year or two? Well, if you need to fill a position, you can fill a position. But when that person comes back, there's what's called the escalation clause. You want to treat them as if they were working there.
Hmm.
Again, these are civil servants who have said, I want to I want to be one of those 1% to protect our country. And so there are protections for them. I've heard it said it's the Civil Rights Act, if you will, of those that serve.
Hmm.
And so there's really three aspects of ESGR: employer outreach, military outreach, and then ombudsman services. Because if someone finds themselves in a situation where there is an adverse impact that's taken or adverse action taken against them because they serve, they can jump on ESGR's website, or they can contact ESGR on an 800 number and just say, hey, here's my circumstance and situations. Someone would be assigned to that particular case, if you will, and conversations would begin in order to protect that individual so that they can come back to work.
I'm surprised always how many HR folks forget that there's also FMLA special time frames set
Right.
up that they just go, oh, I didn't realize that.
Right. And then I think there was another part of your question. I just want to make sure that I addressed it.
Mm-hmm.
Was it related to marketing themselves, or
Mm-hmm.
once they get out, are
Yeah,
there some
where are their
opportunities for them to
resources?
do that?
Yeah, where are their resources or their tools to help them? So as
Yes.
I come into, if I'm listening to this, and maybe I'm coming out and I want to be an entrepreneur, or maybe I want to go work for a company. So how do I re-image myself, or do I?
And that's a great question. I think one of the most difficult things that they face is, when you're, and I use the term inside the wire, I'm sorry,
Hmm.
but if you're in the structure of the military, it's all about the unit and the mission.
Hmm.
One of the most challenging questions or things for someone who leaves the military to do is to promote themselves,
Hmm.
right? I mean, they have a hard time doing that because they've been trained specifically in situations where the unit and the other person is more important than themselves.
Hmm.
And so sometimes when you leave the military, LinkedIn, I mean, that's not something that they really know about.
Hmm.
Although, I have a dear friend, Nancy Lane, who does a tremendous amount of assistance out at McDill, and they train people on how to create a LinkedIn profile and building a social media platform. And I think in the world in which we live today, social media is really becoming the quick news agency, if you will, for many people, regardless of whether it's LinkedIn, X, Facebook. There's just so
Hmm.
many ways to be able to promote the individual. And there's a lot here that I want to share, and I want to kind of delve into it just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Of course not. Please.
So, the first thing really is a person has to ask themselves the question, what do you expect of yourself as you leave the military? Who are you as an individual? Not as a soldier, but as an individual. What can you do as an individual? And I would go so far as to say, ask other people who know you
Hmm.
what they think your strengths are. And so now you're surrounding yourself with some positive comments about yourself. You're really trying to define or clarify in your own mind, who am I? What am I good at? What do other people say my strengths are? Okay, and now that I know that, how do I want to tell the public that?
Hmm.
Right? And so if there's an opportunity to just an issue comes up, I encourage people to write and share their thoughts publicly. Be willing to stand on the things that are of value to you, and don't hesitate to state your opinion. We're living in a day and an age today where everybody is vocal and
Hmm.
they want to share and have their voice in the marketplace. Use email, for example, to communicate what you're doing and the successes that a person's been able to accomplish. And we talk about social media. Find an opportunity to go to chamber meetings or Rotary clubs, believe it or not.
Hmm.
Maybe it's the VFW. Take the time to meet and greet and network with people that you don't know, because now I've done a self analysis. I know where my strengths are. I'm not going to focus on my weaknesses. I understand what they are, but I'm going to go find the industries, the people, the movers and shakers who are really, really trying to make a difference. And I'm going to get to know them. I'm
Hmm.
not going to show up with my resume and just say, here I am. I'm going to really begin that networking process. And fortunately for the military soldier who's leaving, they have some advance notice on when they're going to leave. So they can take up to a year and a half of kind of building this external platform. And then a couple of other things I just want to delve on, and specifically, and some of what I've shared came out of Forbes.com as well as Inc.com. Identify your interests, your talents, and passions for the next move.
Hmm.
Develop relationships with thought leaders. and media representatives, build a community of like-minded people. And then most importantly is become a trusted advisor and be willing to serve other people. You're not just doing it for you, you're doing it to serve a community. So I think those are just some things that I would encourage people to do. If a doesn't have a professional photo taken of themselves, I'd encourage them to do that for their social media venues. And the other thing I probably want to say when it comes to social media is maintain a private social media platform. Be very careful when you're building a social media platform. And I'll give a very specific example. My LinkedIn only covers two types of people. One is those who are in the HR practitioner or HR field, if you will, and two, veterans and their spouses. I don't let family members in or anyone else. And 9 years ago, I had no Facebook. I mean, I had no LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So I've built a platform over the last 9 years, and I continue to monitor that and make sure that those that are in my audience are the ones that I want in my audience.
Mm-hmm. So many of the things you just mentioned are why we want to hire people. Are they aligned with our passion, right? Do they have a work ethic?
Yeah.
Can they ask questions? Can they have critical thinking? Can they be agile? And those are all items that are needed in the business world today. So how you got them and the fact that you would have real life experience with it, not just theory, is so key and just builds another business case for needing to hire veterans, as if we needed another one. I
It's so
mean,
true.
it just is, one of those things. And I just, maybe it's because I worked at the Pentagon for a bit. Maybe it's because I did work with defense contractors and service people have always been part of my life, but I just don't know how to thank them enough. And if we can help them make this transition, including watching our language from the HR side, if we see puzzlement or we are using our lingo, then let's adjust our interview questions. And so, my last question for you, and I have just sucked up so much of your time in this series, but it's just so important and you're so good at it. What's your favorite interview question to let that an HR person would share and ask a veteran that would allow them to shine?
So, as a practitioner in the world of HR for now 20 plus years, the question that I think is the most telling for me is tell me something on your resume that you didn't put on your resume.
Mm,
Is there something that you want us to know that makes you stand out among all the applicants that we've received up to this point? And then I am quiet. And you'd be surprised some of the answers that come back to me. It could be a personal story, it could be a family situation, it could be a combat situation that they faced, it could be a number of things. And I think at the end of the day, we really want to create an environment for all of our applicants, not just our military, but all of our applicants to have that psychological safety or that safe space where they can be their true selves and really share what's on their mind as to why they want to work for our organization. And
mhm.
if we create that environment for them to say it, I think we'll just be amazed at what we hear.
Well, I can't think of a better comment to end this series on. Ernie, thank you so much for your expertise, for your guidance, your direction, your why, and really your passion comes through. Even though it's just audio, your passion certainly comes through. And I look forward to even learning more as I continue to follow you on LinkedIn and be able to know what's available here in our workforce. Thanks so much for joining What the Heck is Happening in HR.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and have a great day.
Thanks.